Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So one thing I learned from Tamal Krishna Goswami was that you should always speak last. And the reason for that is you get the benefit of hearing from so many other wonderful speakers who share many realizations. The last visit of Tamal Krishna Goswami to Mayapur was quite eventful in many ways. He had a clear plan. He always had a clear plan. He always had a clear strategy. And one of his mantras is that every place has a particular preaching strategy. You should find out what that strategy is, and then you should systematically apply it. So way before they could even dream of strategic planning, he was already doing this. So when he arrived that last year, 2002, of course he had not been in Mayapur for many long years. He was going to the university, preparing himself to break into the academic arena. And so the first thing he did was he came up to the GBC meeting where all the devotees were meeting. And naturally, everyone was quite pleased to see him after so many years. As Prithu Prabhu rightly said, it's not that he had a cordial relationship with everybody necessarily. There were differences of opinion. He was closer to some than others. But he was also known by this term rasacharya, meaning that he always had the capacity to kind of reconcile differences through various means. So he came up, offered his obeisances, had some brief exchanges with different devotees, and then immediately he wanted to go down to his room and he wanted to discuss the plan for his visit. So everything had to be thought out well in advance, and very extensive plans made to execute, exactly what he was going to do. So he had some different ideas in mind. One, as someone's mentioned previous, Kalas, I think, he wanted to go to bathe in the Ganga every day. Another thing he wanted to do was to have lunches with various god brothers. Again, churn the rasa with different devotees. He also was preaching to some new devotees who had recently come from Taiwan. They were brand new devotees, and so he spoke on the nectar of instruction in the mornings. He felt that so important because perhaps of all the instructions he received from Srila Prabhupada, the most important was to spread Krishna consciousness to the Chinese-speaking people of the world. So he took time for that, and those were quite long classes, going on for at least a couple of hours or more. He felt great gratification in that. Another thing, and perhaps the most importantly, he wanted to have the kirtans in the evening. And as Kalas and others have mentioned, they started out quite small, only with a handful of devotees. But then as word started to spread, and we started to recruit some of the best kirtan leaders, one after another. Govinda Maharaj came, Naranjan Maharaj came, Shivaram Maharaj came, Radhanath Swami came, and gradually all of the senior devotees came. And it created a very wonderful spiritual atmosphere. devotees who attended those kirtans, I think, can attest to that fact. They were just so sweet, and they went so deep. He felt this was so important to bring the devotees together for Sankirtan. So the numbers started to swell, and there were devotees lined up on the veranda of the Conch building, wrapping all the way around to the staircase. And still, as Kala said, devotees somehow they were able to squeeze in here and there in little spaces. But then the night before his departure, he said, now we have to, the day before that day, we should move the kirtan to the Panchatattva temple room so we can facilitate more devotees taking part. So he really wanted to involve everyone. It wasn't really a question about exclusivity. He wanted everyone to participate, and he truly believed that the panacea for our movement was Sankirtan, bringing devotees together could resolve all differences. So perhaps 1,000 or more devotees, I would assume, I'd estimate, they came together that night. And I think of all the kirtans that at least I've experienced, and many of the devotees commented later on, they were the sweetest of all. Another thing that he did during that visit was he wanted to resolve any differences that he had with God brothers. As a big leader, someone who has done so much to preach Krishna consciousness around the world, naturally, if you're moving so quick and you want to accomplish so much as he did, because he always felt that Prabhupada was pushing him. He said, Prabhupada's pushing me and I want to push you all. So he was tireless in that. He wanted to just spread Krishna consciousness to as many persons as he possibly could. But in the course of doing that, yes, he certainly did rub certain devotees the wrong way at times. There were differences of opinion. He was a strong leader, so he could be quite abrasive at times. But in that last visit, he really wanted to reconcile any differences. So he also made an attempt to go to each and every devotee that he thought that he might have offended in some way. And he asked for forgiveness. I saw this again and again and again. Anytime I saw him during that period, he was going to one God brother, one God sister after another, asking for forgiveness. And in many ways, I think he was looking for closure. So, in one sense, the fact that Prabhupada had sent him here to Mayapur to acquire the land, we spoke about this morning to the Chinese devotees, that he and Bali Bardhan Prabhu were kind of given that responsibility. Prabhupada taught Tamal Krishna Goswami how to make a makeshift money belt. He tied some 14,500 rupees in those days, which was to purchase some 8 or 9 bighas of land around his waist. And so he and this other devotee came here and they negotiated the deal. And it took some 6 days, and Prabhupada was in great anxiety. And finally, on the night of the sixth night, Prabhupada could not translate. He was just thinking about them. And sometime after midnight, he heard the footsteps coming on his veranda and a knock on his door. And then in came Tamal Krishna Goswami. And Prabhupada said, "So what is the news?" And Tamal Krishna Goswami replied, "The land is yours." So he was instrumental in acquiring the land and setting up Sridhar Mayapur. And it was quite befitting in a way that he ended his whole spiritual journey in this world here in Sridham Mayapur. So I saw all of these things as components to closure. The desire to go to the Ganga, the desire to organize these nightly kirtans, the desire to be with God brothers, to ask for forgiveness for those that he thought he had offended, and the climax or the summit was really a Sankirtan. So he, as we've heard also, he was the one who kind of inaugurated the Kirtan Melas, not only here in Mayapur, but subsequently all over the world now. So we have him to thank for that as well. So every devotee, in one sense or another, has been affected by him. When we had the offerings, the homages, a couple days, or the day after actually his departure, as Jayadvaita Maharaj said, so many devotees. I mean, it was endless. It went on for hours. One devotee after another came forward and just expressed their gratitude for how Tamal Krishna Goswami, had been their Sankirtan leader, had been their GBC, had in some way made them a devotee. It was endless. And devotees that we never knew had that connection. They just kept coming forward again and again and again. So practically of all devotees that we can imagine in ISKCON, he had the most far-reaching kind of impact on devotees and our movement, and just accomplishing extraordinary things. So it's befitting that we're here and so many wonderful devotees have spoken about their experiences with him. We all owe a very great deal of gratitude for everything that he's done on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, and we can just pray that he may grant us a drop of his mercy, that we may also follow in his footsteps and be, servants, true servants, sold-out servants of Srila Prabhupada, and be prepared to do whatever Srila Prabhupada wants to spread Krishna consciousness around the world. Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaja ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.